Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. Thank you very, very much for being here. To my new subscribers, welcome. My established ones, I adore you. Thank you very much for the ongoing and continued support of this channel. It really, I am very, very grateful for it. All right. If you saw Pendulum Friday, I was referencing a kind of long rambling request that I got to kind of look forward and see kind of where the parties are after 2024. I'm going to read you the entire message that I got, and we're going to take it from there. So after the 2024 election is settled, will the Republican Party pivot away from MAGA and return to becoming center-right party? That could be asked as a pendulum question, but the more interesting question would be better answered through channeling. What will become of the two parties after 2024? There are many potential possibilities. The Republicans could become more extreme but inconsequential in their tent, and their tent becomes smaller and smaller without any real competition. The Democratic Party could become corrupt and toxic. The Republicans hold on as an authoritarian party will eventually gain power as the Democratic Party becomes complacent or toxic in its own right. They could pivot and go back to being center-right party. Former Republicans can form a new party that eventually replaces them. That could become so irrelevant that the Democratic Party splits into center-right, center-left parties. Okay, let's take a look at that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to channel this because he was right. It needs to be channeled. And so this is how I'm going to phrase it. So Spirit, can you please give us some clarity as to the politics and the political parties in the United States as we move from 2024, 26, 28, 30, 32? Where do these parties go? What can we anticipate? What can we expect? So indeed, it is a very interesting idea to ponder. In truth, because so much relies and depends on free will choices, it is not possible at this time to say this is what's going to happen. We can, however, look at most likely scenarios and the impact that's going to have. So first of all, let's clarify and confirm that energetically at this moment in the 2024 election, Biden will hold on to the White House and the Democrats will reclaim the Senate. No, they will keep the Senate and reclaim the House if that has not happened before the election. Now, going forward, as Trump becomes more and more diminished, you can anticipate that mega followers are going to retreat. All right. Now, that does not mean that a lot of their ideas and attitudes are going to vanish, because you have people like Leonard Leo in the Republican Party who are going to continue to push for this sort of white, Christian nationalism, but they are going to fall out of favor. Sort of like smoking, right? It was really cool. Everybody did it. And then over time, it became more and more and more unattractive. So you're going to see that sort of same movement. And in some ways, that's actually dangerous, because that group of people, that philosophy, those ideas, have no problem going underground for years and years and years to ultimately accomplish a goal. You have to look no further than Roe v. Wade, where it took decades, but they got it done. Now, by the way, that's not going to stay the law of the land or even the law of the states. But let us carry on. You're also going to see a more, center-right political party being created by more traditional Republicans, particularly, we're looking at, Liz Cheney, those kinds of Republicans who still very, very much believe and adhere to traditional Republican values, smaller government, less interference. Unfortunately, though, the attitudes of the rich need to be richer, trickle down economics, those things are also going to become less and less attractive. They're not going to give up on them, though. They are just going to repack in a way that they hope will be attractive to people who, are Republicans or Republican leaning. They also know that they will require a lot of donations from corporations and very wealthy people who do not want to lose, tax advantages, or more likely, who want to push back against the tax advantages that are going to be diminished in the next full Democrat term. The Democratic Party is at this point not likely to splinter. They are holding, they have found a way to sort of balance center right or center left and extreme left. And they've kind of come to, a working compromise. One of the reasons that they are not going to splinter, certainly anytime in the immediate future, is because there is an awareness that they can't let up. It has been said that it is going to take many, many more elections before the Republicans in any way have full control of House, Senate, and the White House. Because the behavior has left such a bad taste in so many people's mouths that they are going to be more and more reluctant to vote for them. And as the Democrats learn to do a better job of marketing their accomplishments, they will start leaning towards a more democratic way of thinking politically. It is true that, too much power corrupts. And while that is a concern, and there may be instances of corruption within the Democratic Party, it's not likely to happen to the degree that has been witnessed by the, coming from that other party, because just of the very nature of the way Democrats think, process, feel. They are far more, inclusive, far more likely to want to keep a sense of equality and balance. Now, let's not forget, as we're talking about this, you are moving slowly but surely into that 4-5 dimension energy shift. And as that happens, the kind of very strict dictatorial ideas and attitudes of the Republican Party are not going to age well. All right. So even though there may be a period of time where you actually end up with a Democratic Party, a far right party, and a center right party, ultimately, the far right party will be diminished because more and more people, even Republicans, are going to want to attach themselves to a new center Republican Party. And the Democrats are going to continue to work to find a balance as they go forward, mindful of the fact that it is going to be several more election go around where they will maintain majority power. Now, the election, this coming election, is going to determine how powerful their majorities are. That has yet to be determined because even though we know that they're going to hold and take back, the Senate and the House, it is the down ballot ticket. It is the voting for the down ballot that is really, really going to change or not the basic foundation of American politics right now. The more because when you boil it down, it always ends up being local. So it is your local city, it is your local state, and then it expands. So it becomes really important who state governors are, who state, attorney generals are. It becomes important who those people are in the down ballot because they have significant power within their own state. And as you've discovered and realized, it is the states that in many ways sort of control the outcome of who ends up in Washington. Not that it is the, let's clarify that. It is the feeling and the attractiveness of the parties within the state that very often will shift that federal arena. Not to mention the fact that there are a lot of Republican controlled states, and until the Democrats are able to get a much firmer toehold, they are going to continue to be very, very strong Republican states. So as we look forward, 2024, 2028, and even to 2030, what you are going to see, okay, 2024, Dems stay strong. 2026, Dems will continue to be strong, but they're going to lose a little bit of leverage. That's why it's so important that everything gets done in the first half of that term. By 2030, the Dems are going to need to really work hard at holding on to those voters, because by then there should be, based on current energies, two Republican type parties. One center and one, honestly, more extreme than you can even envision now. As of right now, 2028 is pivotal. If Republicans vote in, or if that election results in a Republican president, you may very well see a backlash in 2030, exactly the way you saw it in 2018, the midterm of Trump's time in office. So as we move forward, the realization, the reality, the lesson that needed to be learned, the wisdom that needed to be gained was that as a country, as a society, a state, a city, a town, a county, too much power has been given to politicians who are then not monitored because people feel and understand it's, their civic duty to vote. And so, 40% of them go do that. But then they sort of step back and go, okay, that's done for another 2 years or another 4 years. And they're not paying attention to what is going on. So one of the really important and valuable understandings that has come is that it is how important it is to stay involved with the politics that go on around you. Now, not everybody needs to be, so politically immersed that they don't see anything else. But there's definitely a need for people to, in an ongoing way, pay more attention to what is going on and to understand what the story is behind the headlines. Now, as has been discussed, one of the things that the Trump presidency did was, and continue, is because everything gets pushed so close to the line and kind of often just skates over it. The things within the Constitution, the things within the laws of the country that need to be addressed and corrected and firmed up, you're going to see that process starting to take place. You're also going to see a lot of pushback from Republicans because they don't want, things like the filibuster. The Republicans are all for getting rid of it. They just won't get rid of it as long as the Dems are in power. Much like you have Superior Court judges who want to retire but will not do so under a Democratic president. And don't worry, that's going to shift and change. So as you move forward, there are two things that are truly going to create the reality of the political parties. The first is getting more and more of the citizens involved. So not only that they vote, but that they pay attention and stay aware and let their voices be heard. There has been too large a silent majority. And one of the things that silent majority learned was that just because you're in the majority, when there is another party that is continually sort of yapping about the same thing over and over and over again, you have to pay attention to that. That is exactly what happened with Roe v. Wade. Everybody got very comfortable and very complacent. It wasn't codified into law. And look what happened. As we said before, they have strategies that cover decades where politicians typically think in 2 and 4 year or whatever the election cycle that it impacts them is. So that's the first thing that's going to have a significant impact on how this unfolds. And the second thing is the degree to which the fourth dimension energy is able to sort of take hold and people's basic attitudes continue to change and shift to a higher energy vibration. Now, one of the things that we just would like to remind you of is you now have a generation of people in the world, from those who are just now being able to vote, all the way up to those who are in their 30s and 40s, who are of a generation where they are not prepared, or generations where they are not prepared to settle for the way things have always been. And they are going to have a huge impact as more and more of them vote, and as more and more of them become involved in politics. You are going to see that their way of looking at things, their way of sort of thinking outside the box, is going to become more and more powerful and more commonplace, because there's going to be more and more people who think kind of the same way. Your Pete Buttigieg is a very, very good example of this. You look to some of the younger kind of politicians. Eric Swalwell also comes to mind. There are many, many, many. OAC, right? That energy, simply by virtue of volume, is going to push not only the United States and other democratic countries, but the world as a whole into a more forward, inclusive thinking mindset. And what you're seeing right now with the rise of authoritarian and dictator-like behavior is, again, that final push of the dinosaur, who is, doing everything they can to try to maintain that sort of ultimate power within their power center, whatever country that is. Again, that is going to fall into disrespect. Moving forward, like all things, becomes contingent on the free will of people. It becomes balanced by the actions of many. And it is so important to remember that when one and one get together, it multiplies, and it doubles, and it quadruples, and it builds and it builds. If you think of saturation as a pot of boiling water, when those first little bubbles appear in the pot, the water's boiling. But when it multiplies, that is when true change takes place. So it is very often about perceptions and numbers. We are not going to remind you, even though we're about to say it, that your contribution, your vote, your involvement is vital. And this coming election in the United States feels, and in many ways is, incredibly important. But you can't stop there. That's what's been gained and learned. We are hoping that this information has given some clarity, some insight into the political future of the country of the United States. We wish to impart in closing the awareness that even though sometimes it does not feel like it, the country, by and large, is moving in the right direction. And this is not the time to step back or become complacent. It is not the time to allow anxiety and worry to take root, because that energy will impede that forward motion. So our final thoughts to you are, while it is important that you stay involved and that you become active and aware, it is also very important that you know when to sort of step back and recharge, regroup, shift your perspective, because if you become so hyper-focused that you develop tunnel vision, in many ways that tunnel vision sends out a message that the underlying factor is fear. And that is what you don't want. When you fear something happening, you feed it energy. When you stand in confident expectation, when you stand in a feeling of sureness, that is when that forward momentum is allowed to build and build and build until it hits a saturation point and real, effective, and long-term change happens. Mind your thoughts. They become your words. Mind your words. They become your actions. That is our message. We hope that it is helpful to all. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to communicate with you. Okay. Hope that's helpful. Really quick, for all the people who wished me happy Mother's Day and sent a lovely warm message to me and mine, I return them all to you. I hope that you have had a wonderful Mother's Day, and Father's Day is coming up next month, and for those in the United States, Canada. And I hope that the men out there have a really lovely Father's Day also. All right. That's what I know. Take care. Be well. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.